One of the biggest myths regarding Ukraine used by Russian propagandists in order to justify their crimes, their atrocities in Ukraine, is the myth regarding 8 years of shelling civilian people in Donbas. My name is Operator Starsky, and today we're going to talk about this myth. So when asked about the approximate numbers of civilians that were killed by Ukrainian army during these 8 years of war in Ukraine, they will usually give you the number of 51 or 54,000 people approximately. This number originated in the report of the High Office of the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights and depicts total casualties of Russian-Ukrainian war between 2014 and 2021. What Russian propagandists don't want you to know is that this number not only includes the number of civilians that were killed or injured on both sides, meaning on the government-controlled territory and terrorist-controlled territory, but also soldiers of Ukrainian army that were wounded or killed during this period of time, as well as approximate number of pro-Russian separatists and Russian regular troops that were also killed or wounded during this period. As we know, Russian troops, the regular troops of the Russian army, were covertly present in the territory of those regions. International investigation groups like Inform Nepal collected numerous evidence of their presence that became the foundation of placing sanctions on Russian Federation throughout the years since 2014. Using OSINT, over 75 Russian regular units were identified in Donbas since 2014, while all of the Russian officials kept claiming that there were no Russian troops in Donbas. And you can find more information about those regular Russian units that were recognized in Ukraine in the description to this video. But let's return to our numbers here. So what Russians don't want you to know is the real number of civilian casualties between 2014 and 2021, because out of 51,000 people who were hurt in those 8 years on Donbas, the total number of conflict-related civilian deaths is 3,404 people. Civilians that were confirmed dead by the OHCHR. 2,084 of those people died during the very first year of this war, during 2014, as a result of the most intense period of this war, involving multiple rocket launch systems like you see on this video. Here Russian delivered MRLS hidden between civilian houses in Donetsk are firing at Ukrainian-controlled territory. OHCHR specifies that this number, 2,084 people that were killed in Donbas during the first year, include 298 people that were on board of the Malaysian Airlines MH17 that was shot down over Donbas by Russian missile. Only 4 days ago, on June 24th, 2022, Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe, in accordance to the investigation made by Joint Investigation Group, unanimously adopted the resolution that recognizes that Russian Federation has shot down this Boeing over Donbas using Russian-delivered, Russian-made missile from anti-air system called Buk. The system was delivered to the territory of Donbas from Russian Federation in 2014. There's plenty of evidence of that, and investigators were even able to learn the names of people who operated this book. The Assembly's decision was made based on numerous evidence collected and processed by the Joint Investigation Team since 2014, and members of the Assembly confessed that after receiving those evidence, receiving those results of this investigation, they were literally shocked by numerous facts of disinformation that was spread by Russian side in order to blame Ukraine for their own Russian-made crime and confuse the investigation. So 2,084 people were killed during the very first year of the war, and 1,320 people were killed during the following 7 years of the war. And what Russians don't want you to know is that those civilians were killed on both territories, the territory of Ukraine and the territory controlled by Russian terrorist forces. But were all those people shelled by Ukrainian army? So let's take a look at the reports of the OHCHR. December 2021. 6 casualties. We are talking about casualties, not deaths, and it's very important. Later I will tell you why. So, 1 man injured by light weapons fire on the territory controlled by terrorists. Obviously shot by terrorists on the territory that is controlled by Russian terrorist forces. 1 man injured by landmine explosion on government-controlled territory, which is a very frequent case in Donbas, because those terrorist guerrillas usually place IEDs and landmines trying to target Ukrainian forces, and a lot of civilians usually fall victims to those IEDs, and that's a very, very frequent case in Donbas during all those years. 1 woman killed and 2 men injured as a result of ERW handling in Ukraine-controlled territory. ERW stands for Explosive Remnants of War. It's basically all those shells and ammunition that is found by civilians in this area. 1 man injured as a result of ERW handling on the terrorist-controlled territory. What we see here, that is in December 2021, 1 person died on Ukrainian-controlled territory and 0 persons died on the terrorist-controlled territory. Again, we are not talking about the genocide, we are not talking about constant shelling and bombing, we're not talking about mass murder, what Russians try to make it look like. And I must say that representatives of the OSCE were present on the territory of Donbas since 2014, and they registered every single shot made by both sides. And according to OHCHR, 25 persons, not 1,000, 25 persons died on both sides in 2021. 26 people were confirmed dead on both sides in 2020. 27 people died on both sides in 2019, and so on. Of course, every death is a tragedy, and of course, civilian population dies from fire, from shells that come from both sides. However, numerous evidence proves that Russian forces tend to open fire on both sides. And at this point you may ask yourself, like, whoa, wait a minute, Starsky, are you saying that such a decent, honorable army as Russians can literally shell their own citizens? Is it even possible? Like, I mean, yeah, of course, they raped plenty of civilians in Bucha and Irpin and Hostomel. They've killed plenty of civilians and burned them in mass graves. They bombed a lot of shelters with children. But can they shell their own civilians on their own occupied territory? No, it's completely impossible. It's not Russian enough, right? Personally, I think that you have never seen such video as this one, where Russian terrorist army uses a Russian-delivered multiple rocket launch system to shoot at both sides. Interesting, right? Or, for example, this one, where notorious Russian terrorist Arseny Pavlov is shooting a grenade launcher, allegedly to wake up the citizens of Donetsk. Such cases were reported numerous times throughout these years. One of the most famous fakes that is usually pulled out by Russian propagandists and bots is that fake about the trolley bus stop shelling in Donetsk. So a shell exploded near a trolley bus station in Donetsk, and of course Russians blamed Ukrainians for shelling civilian objects. However, comparing the video footage made by Russian media and Google Maps clearly shows that the shell has been shot from the terrorist-controlled territory. In other words, this shell arrived from the south that was controlled by Russian terrorists, not from the north, as they claim. You can read the StopFake's investigation on this, but it's not the end of the story. The witnesses recorded in the Russian footage coincidentally appear in other videos made by Russian propagandists. For example, this woman, represented here as a bystander, is shown in another video made earlier. In that video she was talking about Ukrainian army crucifying a small boy in Slovyansk before the crowd, and of course nobody in this crowd had a cell phone to make a video or a picture, but that's a totally different story. But then she appears in another video pictured as a victim of shelling, this time in Volnovakha, which is completely different city. And at this point you will probably ask, oh my god, Starsky, so you're saying that Russians use actors to forge their news? Is this even possible? And they shell their own civilians? Oh my god, can they be so bad? Yes, they can, especially considering the fact that people who live on the Russian-occupied territories of Donbas are technically Ukrainian citizens. They are not Russians. Of course, it works both ways. So I remember that in 2015, in the city of Krasnohorivka, I was looking through a hole in the wall. And this hole was made by Russian tank, and this tank was firing from Donetsk. So obviously I saw a city of Donetsk through this hole. And the civilian bystander told me that no, actually this hole was made by Ukrainian army that used some secret NATO missiles that make a U-turn and crash into civilian buildings in order to blame Russians. You see, we Ukrainians are famous for committing plenty suicides this way, according to Russian media, and of course murder our own families, like in Bucha, Mariupol, and so on. So let's compare the numbers that we have today. It is verified by the OHCHR that as of 22nd of June, 4,662 civilians, including 320 children, died in Ukraine. 5,803, including 479 children, were injured as a result of the Russian invasion in Ukraine, as stated in this report. The OHCHR specifies that the real numbers of casualties can be higher, obviously because Russian invaders don't let the representatives of the United Nations to the occupied territories to calculate the casualties like Mariupol, Rubizhne and other cities. 25 civilians were killed in total in 2021 on both sides, on both territories, and almost 4,500 were killed in just 4 months of this Russian so-called spec operation that was aimed to liberate Donbas from Ukraine and stop this Ukrainian-made massacre on the territory of Donbas. According to Russian media, 25 people that died in Ukraine and Donbas in 2021 is a genocide, but 4,500 people who died in 4 months of their invasion in Ukraine is not a genocide. Unfortunately, Russian Foreign Minister Lavrov never answered this question, even though he was repeatedly asked by a BBC reporter who pulled out those numbers that were confirmed by the United Nations. Of course, Russian propagandists will do everything to make you believe that all the world is lying to you, all evidence are forged, and all the media are lying. You can only trust decent media like Russian media, and if you don't trust them, then you are Zionist, Canadian, French, Korean, British Nazi. The war criminals from Kremlin and from Russian media and from their army will do everything to justify Russian crimes, and they will do everything to make you believe in whatever they want you to believe. They're using their strongest weapons, their media, their bloggers, and of course they hope that those lazy internet users will never check the facts. But of course any information can be checked nowadays, and that's the reason why Russians are blocking social media, blocking websites. For example, they blocked their Facebook in Russia as well as Instagram because they recognized those worldwide networks as being extremist. And that's the reason why modern world nowadays recognizes Russian committed crimes in Ukraine and sends their forensic experts to collect evidence in Ukraine, in cities like Bucha and village of Matizhin and plenty other places in Ukraine. And at this point I can say that Russian propagandists, their most efficient soldiers that I've been honestly concerned about the most, are finally failing. My name is Operator Starsky. Thanks for watching.